So let's bring in our guest for this discussion, just to unpack this further. We are now joined by Professor Daniel Meyer from the School of Public Management, Governance and Public Policy. Prof, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for your time. So let's get your reaction then to Trump's tariff campaign. And as the United Nations, there, as the trade agency warns, I mean, do you agree that the extension of the tariffs to August is prolonging uncertainty and instability for countries like South Africa?
Definitely, and the world is waiting for the final decision on all of these tariffs. Look, if we must understand how President Trump is thinking, he wants to make America great again. He wants to make sure that America's got favorite trade tariffs benefiting their companies, and that is what he's after. And this is the biggest economic experiment the world has seen in the history of economics, and it's going to change the world trade order, definitely. The US has got huge trade deficits with most countries, maybe all countries. They've got a huge trade deficit, and we know what is driving the economy of any country. It's exports, it's good investment, it's good governance, and it's consumer spending. And the US has got a huge consumer market, by far the biggest in the world, double the size of China, double the size of the European Union. And everybody wants to trade with the US. And the US has suffered in the past in terms of this trade deficit affecting their economic development.
South Africa says it will continue with its diplomatic efforts, it says, towards a more balanced and mutually beneficial trade relationship with the US. How best does one negotiate with someone like President Donald Trump, especially given his domestic ambitions and focus?
Yes, President Trump is a business person. And I was thinking yesterday again when I saw this letter that we have got a 30% trade tariff placed upon all of our goods and so on from a 0%. What would be the best, and what will make the US trade team? They've got a full team of people analyzing the trade. It's not only President Trump, he's got a full team of advisors. What will make them happy? And I think the obvious thing is to say 0 to 0. You can export to us from the US to South Africa at 0% trade tariffs, but let us continue with AGOA, which is a 0% trade agreement. So that is going to be the result for all of this. If we say, no, we're going to give you 15%, blah, 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 they're going to just increase. So South Africa is a small economy, and the US is the largest in the world. We cannot negotiate on the same footing with them. We need to say 0 to 0. And then we can continue with our exports. Probably our export surplus will continue to be like that. The US is our best export partner. We've got the biggest export surplus of any country with the US, except for some of the African countries, but our exports are huge to the US. It's very important for South African economy that we continue. It's around about 10% of all of our exports, and if we cut and we're going to go down on that, the economy is going to be really badly affected. There's going to be a huge domino effect on all of us, and we must prevent it at all costs. So I'm proposing a 0 to 0 trade tariff for all products from the US to us, and they will agree with that. Definitely, I cannot say how they cannot agree with that.
Yeah, and of course, of concern is the fact that the data that is used by the United States is something that is quite questionable, as we've heard also from, some political economists, some economists here in South Africa. But in as far as opportunities are concerned here, where can South Africa start outside of relying on the US?
Yes, as I said, the US has got by far the biggest consumer market. If we take vehicle exports, we're exporting like 2 billion rand worth of dollars of vehicles to the US. It is specifically for the US market. It's designed for the US market. It's left-hand drive. It is specifically for them. For example, the C-Class Mercedes-Benz They have now stopped producing it in the Eastern Cape because they're worried about this situation. 30% or 25% is going to push them out of the market. So they've stopped producing. Where else can we export this? Europe has got their own production systems. The Asian markets, China will not take our vehicles. They can produce it much cheaper there. So we've got a specific market in the US. It's going to be really difficult to replace it. Maybe the agricultural products could be sent somewhere else, and the metals and minerals somewhere else, but it's really going to be difficult because we're not so competitive. We're quite isolated in the southern point of Africa. The distances make it very expensive to transport items. So I would say that let's save this. Let's save this AGOA agreement basically, and talk about 0 to 0. It is to the benefit of South Africa. If we don't do it, there's going to be less exports, weakening trade balance, less economic activities, less growth, job losses, as well as inflation is going to increase if we don't have the right decisions. And I've heard some wrong statements by some of the government officials and ministers on this issue, and it's going to be picked up by the Trump administration as a negative impact on their decision. And we've got only a few weeks to resolve this by coming up with the right trade proposal. And then it's quite simple to do it. I don't know why they cannot say what I'm proposing.
Thanks, Prof. Thank you so much for your input. Professor Daniel Meyer, School of Public Management, Governance and Public Policy.